Okay, so for those, an HTML page, which you can find in my lesson yesterday. If that we're about to do is we're about to do a fetch call, get some stuff, populate this page. Now, the way that we're going to do it, it would be the same exact way that you would do it from your backend. When I run light server here, that's one server, and that's running all this stuff going on at the front end. When I run Rails S, that's running the server for Rails, and they're two completely separate things. Now, I can go from my front end, and I can make calls to my back end like I would any, and it looks cool, and I like Rick and Morty. Data from any backend, what we got to do is we got to make a call to that backend. You'll learn how to modify that more in mod 3, but the default of fetch is to, then what goes inside of a fetch is just a URL. So that's our URL. And then, by the way, stop me if you need to just catch up to where we are, so that way you can see what I'm seeing on your screen. So this is where you're going to type in .then, and this you're pretty much going to do every time. And what this line does is you're taking the response, everything that runs over the internet to another place, the type of data that it sends is a string. And what JSON, a string, that's it. All it is a string, but it's a string that's formatted a particular way. So in other words, a JSON file is like this string where it's, I mean, you can't really tell. I don't think it'll let you separate quotes like that in JavaScript. But the point is that, like, let's say you have an object. This object looks something like this, you know, like key value. And this is the simplest, you know, object that I could think of. What the JSON file is all response goes to the parsed version of that response. Is our data. So now this is our data. And we're going to say, what do we want to do with that? Okay. So here is where we can call a function. So let's say that for now we just want to console log it, right? Console or log data, and then we're going to input our data into that function. So now just to show, whoops, I accidentally typed in log date. Yeah. So now you can see all, if you think about this workflow, what I did was first I fetched from this backend page data, and all I want to do is console log it. So when I write this function and define it, all of that stuff is on there, right? Cool. So now what we want to do, so instead of calling this log data, we're going to say, bam. So to make a card, where are we going to put our cards in the HTML? That's kind of like a thought process that you got to be thinking about when you're thinking about combining JavaScript with HTML, is how am I going to connect my JavaScript and HTML together? And you have to basically think of an element to nest your stuff with it, right? So where do you think that you're going to nest your cards into in this HTML?
In section?
Card container. Yeah, exactly.
Card container.
Cool. So first thing that we have to do is we have to create the variable that references that. So does anybody know how I would do that?
Const maybe, and then
const what?
Whatever we want the variable name to be.
Yep. So what do you want to call it? Let's call it card container.
Card data or card container, yeah.
Okay. Do you know what goes next?
It's
going to be an equal sign.
Okay. Yeah, equals, and then are we gonna? I'm actually not quite sure here.
That's fine. So there's a few options you have. There's like get element by ID. I always just do
Okay.
document.query selector. So
Okay.
what
Oh,
you're
that's what I
doing
was
is
thinking. Yeah.
you're saying on this object called the document, which the document is this whole page, what you're saying is I want to run a query selector on that. Because one thing you need to remember about this is that you are always running a query selector on something that exists on the page. So this page, the global object is called document. So I'm just saying document.query selector. And then what I'm going to say here is, would this work? Card container?
No, it needs to be the ID. So it needs to be.
Good job.
Yeah, IDs are hashtags, right?
Bam. Cool. Whoops. Great. Good job. Sweet. So now we have that. And then the next thing that we could think about is what are we going to do as far as how are we going to populate this? So let's go ahead and, well, I need to input this here. One thing I wanted to go over was, so if we were to console log our data here, let's just call this data right now. Damn. So if we look at our data, you notice how this hash has like, oh, okay, this has this key value pair, where this key is a bunch of stuff that we don't really need. And then it has this key value pair where this is all the shit that we're interested in. And then it has this key value pair, which is like, who the fuck cares about that shit?
Right.
So one thing that we could do is if we want in our make cards data, we can just quickly go into data.results. So now the thing that's actually being logged here is just that array. I think it's a little easier to work with, is all. You're going to have to write less. Did that make sense, what I just did there?
Yeah, so the dot results just takes
Yeah, so it's like,
that results hash or object.
yeah, and remember when you're, it's just dot notation for indexing something from a hash. So it's not some fancy function or anything like that. It's literally just, there was the hash, I want that key from the hash. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. I just want to make sure because sometimes it's easy to think too much about stuff. Anyways, so there we go. And now we have something that I think is a little more specific and nicer to work with. So now we can call it like characters, right? Because we just know that it's an array. We can even call it characters array. We want to be specific. So now we're in here and we want to iterate over this characters array. Why do we want to iterate over the characters array? Because we want to create a new card for each character, right?
Yep.
So we can do this. Characters array dot for each. And we're going to say for each character. I think I need to do this syntax. No, I don't. For each character, I'm trying to get these committed to memory. I used to just kind of like look them up. Great. So now we're just going to say maybe I do need to wrap this. Characters array. Oh, it's literally this. Damn. So I just wanted to make sure that it's iterating through a bunch of times. So if you see the little 20 there, that just means that it said yo-yo 20 times. Cool.
Ah, nice.
So that means that it's iterating through each of them. And now what I want to say is we're going to say for each character, what we want to do is our card container is going to equal card container, whoops, dot inner HTML, and then now we can say plus, and this is where we're going to go ahead and write whatever we want inside of here. So let's go ahead and display the name. So let's go like, let's make it a H2 element, H2, and then we can say character dot name. Bam, so let's see what that did. Hey, look at that. Now we listed all our character names.
Nice.
Cool. And then on this card, what if we also want to have an image? This one's cool. You're going to like this one if you haven't done this before. Image. And then you can go like href equals character dot image. Bam. Something's wrong there. Let's
Yes.
see. I probably made a mistake. Oh, yeah, no. So we have ID, status, image. It's supposed to be a source tag. I wonder if it's that. There we go.
Ah.
Yeah, I just did href instead of source. So now we have all these characters. Look at that. Isn't that kind of nifty?
That is pretty damn cool.
Yeah. So great. We have all that. I think it's good to like, let's say, so a good practice would be, let's say I want to take all these and lump them together. Well, we can wrap them in a div, right? So let's go div, and then we could say ID equals, character card. And then we could even say which character. So we could say character card. And then let's say character dot ID. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Gonna have to close that off. Now we can check to kind of see that that's working. Let's see, character card 1, character card 2, character card 3. Great. And that might come into use later. Close out that div. We'll just do that for now, right? Sweet. Barry Smith, why does that look so ugly? Oh. This is where CSS comes in, which we could do some later. Cool. So are you guys at the same point? You guys get your stuff working?
I have an error somewhere. I'm just trying to take a quick look, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna see where
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. Maybe what we could do is you could share your screen and we could try and figure that out for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's
cool
do
with
that.
All right.
See how that goes. How do I unshare my screen?
I think it's usually towards the top.
Everything is oh, yep, stop sharing. There we go. Go for it. There's on the other screen. I have 3 screens right now, so it's confusing, but also amazing.
All right. Let me pull, when you stop sharing, let me just pull this over here.
Sure. Let's see what your error is saying.
Yeah.
Reference errors. Characters array is not defined. So go ahead to your JavaScript, please.
All right. Got.
Oh shit. Our meeting.
I just moved everything around. Hang on just a second here. Sorry about that.
Our meeting is ending in 10 minutes. So let's debug this and I'll start a new one.
All right. Where did everything just go? Cool.
Wonder how much it is to upgrade Zoom.
Sometimes I've done this with a couple friends, and it will all of a sudden out of nowhere just like extend my time, and I'm not sure why.
$14.99 a month.
Oh wow.
It's not too bad. I might do it if I'm gonna get some Gmail lessons.
All right. Let me pull my.
Yeah, my hunch is that it's just a typo. That type of error kind of sounds like that. Great. So characters. I see the problem.
Right here.
Yep.
Character array.
Yep. Just make that characters array and you're good.
Mm.
Do you see why?
Because I've called.
You were calling characters array from inside of that function, and you never defined characters array.
Gotcha. So that would mean I need to do the same thing here, right?
That you'd want to be a character because plus you spelled characters wrong on line 9. But yeah.
And here, I think. No, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Line
Characters. 9. Yeah.
What a fun word to spell.
Yeah. See if that works. Go ahead and refresh your page. You hit Command R. If you click like in the white part and hit Command R.
Yeah. Huh.
Uncut and promise for each of undefined.
Put characters in line 8. Characters.name. And you should put $ before.
Yeah. That shouldn't be breaking it because he doesn't have the $. So it's not even reading it as a variable. It's just reading it as a string.
Mm-hmm.
But that he should do that. And then it should be character, not characters.
Well, that makes.
And then what else do we got here?
Cannot read property for each make cards.
JSON and data equals make cards. Cannot read property for each of undefined at make cards. For each of undefined. Why would that be undefined? Your URL says /API and then / you just took the website. So you actually have to add a character to the end of that. Bam. Aha. Except for your image is messed up. So wonder why that's messed up.
Yeah, something wrong with the picture.
Go to
now I'm actually getting.
Yeah, you're pulling from the back end. Go to your elements tab in your developer tools. And go into section, open up section.
Section.
Bam. Source, undefined. Character.image. Something's wrong with that. I don't know what.
I had image misspelled.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I swear, spelling has been like the downfall for me when it comes to all of this. I misspell things all the time, and
Well,
it's
the good news about that is that means you're going to learn how to debug faster than everybody else,
yeah,
and you'll get better at spelling.
yeah, for sure. Cool. I appreciate your help on that.
Well, let's go ahead and end this meeting only so that way I make